Belichick's lost a step to me.
I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do this.
This is Anik Squared.
That's right. It is Anik Squared, episode 18. And believe it or not, the final episode of Anik Squared for this, the 2022-2023 NFL season. Today is Tuesday, January 10th, 2022. My name is Jason Anik, joined on the screen by my identical twin brother, UFC commentator Jon Anik. You know, I complain all year about picking games on a Tuesday, but that's a regular season problem, man. I'm ready to go from the postseason, huh?
Well, and I'll tell you right now, if I want to do an Anik Squared Super Bowl preview, I'm going to trot that out there. So in all likelihood, our final episode, our 18th and final episode, we were not with you, of course, last week because of the Damar Hamlin situation. And candidly, I'd like to thank the entire Hammer Network team and Zach Phillips and everybody else for their patience and navigation with that whole situation, because I know for a lot of sports fans, this was unique to other sports watching experiences. Certainly, I work as a mixed martial arts commentator, and we've never had anything like that happen. So, candidly, I think for a lot of handicappers and NFL betting types, just didn't have an appetite to be picking games. Yeah. And thankfully, we can sit here, you know, fully hearted, given the fact that Damar is back in Buffalo and things have progressed the way they have. But obviously, that was why we were dark last week.
Yeah, so we didn't pick Week 18, and so Week 17, we'll just shoot you back. And for those of you who haven't joined us before, each week we pick 5 games against the spread, and we go against each other. Now, there was going to be a punishment at the end of this season, and I know you didn't want me to get into this, but I'm going to get into it. So the loser was to do 5 shots of tequila on the final episode of Anik Squared. Now, John is working in New Orleans, and as a professional broadcaster, he just isn't afforded that luxury. But I'm going to quickly say, so Week 17, John, you were 3-2. I was 2-2. I had the Bengals in the Bills-Bengals Monday night game that didn't happen. So I picked 84 games. You picked 85 games. So I finished half a game ahead of you. So technically, you should be doing 5 shots of tequila right now on the episode. But I just want to say, because you're unable to do that, you know, for Damar Hamlin, man, I just wanted to do one for Damar Hamlin and for Anik Squared to honor the bet.
Attaboy. Well, thank you.
So
hopefully it wasn't water.
So it wasn't. It wasn't my favorite silver tequila, but anyway.
Yeah, that Patron stuff
cheers
is garbage.
To,
or Don Julio, whatever you have. Casamigos.
That's the stuff. We got to have twin tequila or something. You got to come out with your own tequila, but that's a different conversation. But Damar Hamlin, I just will say, in taking that shot for him, he brought me so much happiness last week. I mean, like hearing the the news that everything was fine, that he was neurologically intact. I mean, and just all the forthcoming news they're coming. And we're going to get into the Buffalo Bills. But anyway, so unbelievable, man. 84 games picked for me, 85 for you. I'm 39, 42, and 3. You're 40, 44, and 1. Really close to 500 either way, half a game. And the purpose of us going 5 games against each other all season was so that we would get ready for the Circa 4 million pro football contest where we pick 5 games against the spread and submit in a joint account. On that note, congratulations to you with a 5-0 in the Circa contest last week. So talk to me.
Well, I don't know that I necessarily want to be congratulated for a losing ticket, right? A season ticket that's essentially getting ripped up. But yes, we'll take the 5-0 in Week 18. And quickly, in terms of our head-to-head, it really is amazing. We share DNA. We're identical twins. We think the same way. We talk the same way. And after picking a whole NFL season's worth of games, and granted, we're making these picks on Tuesdays, so oftentimes we're getting stale lines. I'm not making an excuse for being a couple games below 500, but we're only separated by a half a game, merely percentage points. I will make good on the bet. I am a betting man. I am a man of my word. But, yes, I have voiceover obligations here in New Orleans, Louisiana. And, candidly, taking 5 shots on the eve of this obligation is not a good path for me to realize success. But in terms of the Circa Million for pro football contest, so the winner had 61.5 total points out of a possible 90. He finished 59, 26-5, 33 games over 500. That is a 69% clip. But ultimately, I'm not trying to win the whole goddamn thing. I'm just trying to cash. So in order to cash in the Circa 4 Pro Football Contest in 2022, you needed 55 points, right? So the difference essentially between 55 points to cash and 61.5 to win the whole thing, not all that pronounced. We finished with 49.5 points, 6.5 points out of the money, right? So I feel like we can bridge that gap to the pot. I'm not sure we're ever going to be able to be 30 games over 500. Certainly there's a lot of luck involved, but we finished the year on the strength of a 5-0 in Week 18, 48, 39, and 3, tied for 819th place out of a total 4,682 entries. So we're firmly in the top 20%. I felt like we handicapped the board pretty well this year. Certainly, I think anybody who partakes in these long-form, season-long contests can talk about bad beats on a week-to-week basis. But generally speaking, I didn't feel like we had a lot of those close games go our way, and we still end up 9 games over 500. So I'm satisfied with our work in the Circa contest, even though we did not cash.
Do you know how they handled that Bills-Bengals game? And I'm not trying to get off on a tangent here, but a lot of fantasy consideration. Now that we're allowed to move on to football, whether it's fantasy football, whether it's a contest like this, that game not happening on that Monday night and going away did have ramifications that certainly had a trickle down in terms of this professional sport and the big business that is the NFL. No doubt.
Yeah, that's a good question. I would imagine it just got wiped off the board, or maybe it was a push to make the numbers work. Probably was factored into the contest as a push. And candidly, I wouldn't be surprised if they have language at the front end that sort of gets them ahead of that, just given all the cash that is exchanging hands. One other thing of note real quick. Last place, if you pick all 90 games and finish in last place among those who have finished the contest, you win $100,000.
Unbelievable.
But a lot of people who are doing poorly maybe bail after 50 or 60 selections, right? So the last place winner of the $100,000, Big Booty Judy's, picked 90 games, finished 29, 55, 5, and 1.
And sometimes you feel like the closest thing to an 0-5 is a 5-0, and
yeah.
it's unbelievable. That's fascinating.
Well, he was honored for his futility. We will be back next season, thanks to our proxy, the great Matty Simo, Matty Vegas.
Vegas. So in a situation when certainly the guy who wins $100K for being last place didn't start the season in that effort, I've got to know if he's betting against himself at any point. At some point for the last, right? Or is he just...
maybe towards the tail end you can see when you're getting stale numbers, right? If you looked at the Dolphins-Jets game this past weekend, we had Dolphins +1 in the contest. It was probably -3.5, -4 on the Miami side at close.
Right.
So, yeah, certainly I think circumstantially he can take the worst, stalest numbers, and I think more often than not you're probably going to end up on the wrong side. But, hey, man,
crazy.
I'd honestly, $100,000 is a lot of money, but I don't know that that's a badge of honor I'd like. I'd rather have 40 correct predictions than 29 predictions. Split $100,000 with you. I take $50K. The government takes about 28, I'm only taking 22,000 home. I'd rather pick 48 winners instead of 55 losers. I don't know.
I hear you. So in addition to the 5 picks against the spread every week, we did make some predictions at the outset of the season, some good, some bad. So let's get into some of that, see how that shakes out. We can spend as little or as long on each one as you like. So we did pick each division. So I'm just going to sort of start how we did on episode 1 of the program. So AFC West, I had the Chargers. Certainly that didn't come in. It came in the Chiefs. Do you want to go through it?
Are you just going to belabor this because I did so poorly? Like, can you run through the fucking picks and then we'll talk about them?
I'd be happy to. So in terms of, but I will say though, in terms of the prognostication, there's a lot of chalk in the NFL, and it's not like if you went full chalk, you're looking pretty good at this point. There weren't a lot of crazy surprises.
No, I'm sort of saying that in jest, right? I just don't know that we need to belabor the season-long picks. We had to pick a winner in every division. Obviously, I whiffed on all of my Raiders' future. I had them coming out of the AFC, really, because the number was 23-1. But essentially nailed most of the AFC playoff picture. I did have the Tennessee Titans to win the AFC South, and it came down to the final game. They didn't have their quarterback. But I had the wild cards to the Ravens and the Chargers. I did have a wild card to the Chiefs. They ended up getting in. So I did hit on 5 of the 7 AFC teams. I was far less successful in the NFC. But my biggest ticket is obviously the Bills to win the Super Bowl and to win the AFC, and those are still alive. But, I had to pay the man on some futures.
Yeah, amazing how I said you could spend as little or as long as you want on each thing. We just passed through all of it. Just a couple things I want to say of note. So in the AFC, I'm going to get to that with my futures, but in the AFC, right, you get the Jaguars. I had the Colts. You get the Bengals winning in that division. I had the Ravens. Ravens still in the tournament. I had the Chargers winning the AFC West. The Chiefs win it. Chargers still in the tournament. My wild card spots, I had Dolphins, Broncos, Chiefs, now covered by Ravens, Chargers. So for me, right, in terms of the AFC postseason, I had the Colts in. The Jaguars are in. But other than that, the picture is accurate. Now, in terms of the NFC, we both had the Rams. You had some futures on the Ram. Obviously, Stafford's injury, but Stafford was banged up going into the year. And now McVay, 34 years old, not gonna coach the organization. I'd be devastated if I'm a Rams fan if he doesn't come back. Different, but anyway, 49ers win that division. But I had the Vikings win in the North. I had the Bucks win in the South, and the Eagles win in the East. And I did say on episode 1 that I wouldn't be surprised to see the Eagles make a very deep run. Now they're certainly not necessarily peaking. But anyway, you had the Cowboys there. And they're in the postseason.
Divisionally, you did great, and I actually think you should be commended for your foresight in terms of what happened, not just in the NFC, not just with the Minnesota Vikings and the Philadelphia Eagles, whom you were bullish on really from week 1, but everything you said about the New England Patriots on episodes 1 through 3 of Anik Squared essentially came to fruition. And even though a lot of my analysis was rooted in optimism, maybe, I mean, everything you said about Belichick sort of became the national narrative as the season went along. And I think you hit on a lot of inconvenient truths that Jonathan and Robert Kraft are going to have to address this offseason. But no, you had a good year, not just in the sports book, but obviously in terms of the future forecast as well.
Well, you pissed me off on episode 1 more than you did on the entire other 17 episodes combined, in terms of just, you were really not liking the way I was coming at Belichick and calling him senile. But I'm just going to read you something from my notes from week 1. Uh-oh. And this was in relation to my Patriots future wager under 8.5 wins. Now, certainly some luck there. They go in 8 and 9. But I like Mac Jones, the human being. I just don't believe his skill set is well suited for the NFL as it moves to this next era. Hope I'm wrong. Disastrous having Matt Patricia and Joe Judge in your ear as opposed to Josh McDaniels, who's done it for 25 years, most of which with Tom Brady. That's a huge loss for Mac Jones, and it results in a step back for them. And that's exactly what happened. And, I bring up Colin Cowherd a lot, but a lot of that's because I respect his knowledge. Dude is tapped in. And he said, earlier this week, Mac Jones isn't the problem. And I thought about it a lot because I think there were some times where we came at Mac Jones, and I certainly don't think he's the solution, the way Justin Herbert is the solution to a lot of problems in that team. But I don't know what I think of Mac Jones. Do I think Mac Jones maybe can be the guy? Yeah, we alluded to that a few episodes back. But certainly in terms of the Patriots, so we'll stay there. Under 8.5 wins, I did hit that. But yeah, the Patriots, man, it is what it is. And I went back. They could have been 12-5. I looked at a lot of these games. They had opportunities to win. But the overall picture of the Patriots season, it was a really down year.
Mac Jones may not be the problem. He is certainly not the solution. I do think they'll address the quarterback position in the draft. But I can assure you Bailey Zappi is not going to have anything resembling a long-term successful NFL career. So that was a wasted selection. And I don't feel premature at all in that analysis. But, certainly you had a lot of good things to say at the outset of the year. And I think now as we spin it forward, it's going to be really interesting to see a lot of these teams that were on the fringe. Do they go to the sort of bowels or do they rise? Because this league, most of these rosters turn over 28-30% each year. So it's not out of the realm of possibility that New England could not just make the playoffs next year. They could actually contend. So we'll see.
I hear you. So just quickly before we move into the postseason. So my AFC champion preseason was the Los Angeles Chargers. My NFC champion was the Minnesota Vikings, with the Chargers winning it all. You had the Bills winning the AFC preseason, the Rams winning the NFC. You can cross that the fuck off your list. And the Bills winning the Super Bowl. So as we move forward, you still got the Bills alive. We're going to talk about how we feel about things now. Certainly, I'm not going with my Chargers to win the Super Bowl at this stage. Yeah. Any futures of yours you want to touch on before we talk about these postseason games coming up starting Saturday?
Well, I would just acknowledge your futures. Patriots under 8.5. You got that one home at -120. The Miami Dolphins to make the playoffs at +150. Man, did you have to sweat that one out, right?
Right.
We're 8-3 at one point.
Right?
You went to the window and the guy said, "Sir, we can't cash this right now." They
Exactly.
have to win below.
And I will say, I did bet the Cowboys to miss the playoffs plus 175. It wasn't as large a wager as it was in the Dolphins, but it felt real good when Dak went down and Cooper Rush was there. But they certainly made the postseason. It'll be fascinating to see what they do. What a fascinating game, Cowboys-Bucks this weekend.
Yeah.
So first round of games coming up this weekend. I did do an AFC and an NFC champion and a Super Bowl champion based on now. We'll get to that at the end. Let's chop through these games real quick. There's only 6 games. We can spend as little as or as long as you like. Let's start out. First game, Seahawks at 49ers -10. You can tell me who you like. Tell me what you think. Any read on the game? Talk to me.
So I don't have action on the game just yet. Now, what if the Detroit Lions were in this spot at San Francisco?
Great point.
I can assure you it wouldn't be double digits, right?
Or the Packers even. But yes.
Yeah, I think the Packers. Yeah, I think you're probably right in terms of the price. So right now, depending on where you shop, this is around 10 points. What is the number I would need to bet on Seattle? I mean, certainly it would have to be double digits. If San Francisco got below 10 to 9.5, that would be appetizing for me. I do believe the San Francisco 49ers are the best team remaining. I think they have a great chance to win the Super Bowl, to come out of the NFC. Brock Purdy's making plays. George Kittle is back. Christian McCaffrey obviously is on a tear. You know what the defense can do. And I think they have a layup in this first weekend. So I like San Francisco to win, but I won't be laying 11 points this weekend. There's no way.
Well, they beat the Seahawks twice already this year, and playing a third time, playing a division opponent, if forced to pick the game against the spread, I think I'd take the 10 at this point. But I absolutely love the 49ers. And I don't love just betting NFL games against the spread. We're forced to pick 5 games for the contest. We're forced to pick 5 games here. Most certainly the 49ers money line will be tied to maybe everything I play for the next 6 days, because I don't see that happening. Because I'm just not drinking the Geno Smith Kool-Aid as much as everyone else, and I think it's certainly been a slow fade for the season there. But anyway,
well, and he has regressed a little bit over the second half of the season. I still think he's going to get a massive contract, but yeah, I think the 49ers, I would be absolutely stunned of all the games on the board. If Tua Tagovailoa plays, right, I'd be less surprised to see Miami go in there. That Buffalo defense isn't stopping anybody, right? I'd be the most surprised of any team to emerge, of the underdogs, to see Seattle get through San Francisco. So, yeah. 49ers for me, ideally a hook below 10.
I agree. And we haven't even mentioned the Cincinnati Bengals on this show. I can't wait. I got so much to say about the Cincinnati Bengals. But we're going to keep it in order. The next game of the weekend, Chargers at Jaguars. Pick'em game. Don't know if Mike Williams is going to play or not. For Colin Cowherd, that moved the needle one way or not. If Mike Williams plays, he likes the Chargers. If he doesn't, he likes the Jaguars, which I do think is kind of interesting. It's a very close game. Justin Herbert, I talked about a little bit earlier, how, he solves a lot of problems. Chargers are not a perfect unit by any stretch. However, the opportunity to peak at the right time for this team, even last week playing everybody and getting guys banged up, I don't really know what Brandon Staley is doing. However, do I think they can go beat the Jaguars in a football game? Certainly. I don't think I'm going to be playing this game. I love games that I don't have to play every game. I can't wait to watch this game. I'll be rooting for the Chargers, certainly rooting for my action. And I do think the Chargers can make things annoying in a way that maybe I don't think the Jaguars are quite ready to do. So gun to my head, Chargers.
I actually think whoever wins this game can make more noise than people expect. Right now, to win the Super Bowl, the Chargers are 20-1 and the Jaguars are 22-1. So certainly two of the longer shots out there. It's a pick 'em right now. I have seen Los Angeles -1 in some spots. Certainly I think the Mike Williams situation bears watching, but I like Jacksonville. I really do. And my handicap began with Doug Peterson versus Brandon Staley. And I didn't necessarily have to get much further. Now, Justin Herbert, that dude's the fucking man. And you know who else is the fucking man? Trevor Lawrence, right? But I'm not sure I have ever seen an NFL quarterback throw a better ball than Justin Herbert in my life. I'm 44 years of age. And yet I'm going to be fading that team because I don't think they're as disciplined. They do commit a lot of penalties. Their coach, just okay. Give me Doug Peterson. Give me Trevor Lawrence. I think they also have the better kicker. I think Jacksonville wins that game. They're also at home. And I might even get the +1. But I like Jacksonville to potentially win more than one game here in the postseason.
That might be a little side piece head-to-head, you and me, just for fun. Moving on. Dolphins at Bills. I see this at 11 right now. Certainly the line reflects that Tua is not going to play. I would be shocked if Tua is playing, and that's a little tough to say because it's been kind of a choppy year, but if he was in groove, they certainly had they played them very tough a few weeks back. I think I would like the Dolphins here. I'm going to contradict so Zach Phillips just chimed in. He sees 9.5 there. So that's interesting. And go ahead.
I was just going to say the games in which the quarterbacks are in question are bouncing around. Yeah. I mean, Ravens, Bengals, right? 7, 6.5. Every time I look, it's a different number, right?
Yeah.
I actually saw it at 7, 6.5, and 6 today. So, yes, Zach, I'm with you. I see 9.5 right now. Our guy actually has it at 10.5, the local guy that we play with. I think Tua might play. I'm not sure it's necessarily going to matter all that much. I mean, certainly they're much better with him. There's no doubt about it. But what form is this guy in? I mean, I don't think in terms of his concussive tendencies and the way this season has played out, I'm not going to sit here and get on a soapbox as some sort of medical professional, but based upon what I have seen and the recency of this most recent concussion, I don't think he should play. I might play the Bills 9.5 now.
I don't think he's going to play, so I don't necessarily want to have that conversation, but assuming he plays, as long as his brain's in good condition, he played a decent game against Green Bay until he was concussed and started chucking all over the place, his brain banging off the side of his head for the third time all season. I just don't think he plays, and because of that, I'm looking to tease the Bills maybe. But if Tua played, I think the Bills would be vulnerable to that team, maybe in ways that they might not be vulnerable in a game against the Chiefs at a neutral location, if you will.
Yeah, and I do believe that the Bills have looked to be a little bit more vulnerable than the Bengals and the Chiefs. Even if you look at that game against New England, right? You have the 2 Nyheim Hines kick returns for a touchdown, and then the 2 long touchdown passes. I mean, certainly Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs have been doing that all year, so you got to give them the benefit of the doubt. But those 2 plays, game of inches, if not millimeters. One fingernail goes sideways, and that play on the 3rd and 10 isn't made to Diggs. And maybe we're having a whole different conversation, and the Dolphins aren't in, and the Patriots are going to Orchard Park for the second time in as many weeks. And that's another interesting dynamic that Buffalo would have had to deal with.
Well, I hear you, and they couldn't get the Patriots off the field. Patriots played probably their best offensive game. And I could go on and on and on about different components of the Patriots. You know, Kendrick Bourne, a playmaker that has been given the Malcolm Butler treatment. I don't get it. Anyway, I don't want to talk about the Patriots. Moving on. Next game, Giants at Vikings. Vikings -3. Another game where I have no interest in betting this game against the spread. I can't believe that I want the Giants to win in my heart, believe it or not. That Daboll, I want to root for Daboll that much, and I'm going to root for a New York team, root against my action. Now, I have Vikings action. I had a future on the Vikings, 39-1 to win the Super Bowl that I placed fucking April of last year. Well, they're 30-1 to win the Super Bowl right now this year, winning their division. I should have bet them just to win the division, frankly. If I have to lean, I probably lean toward the Giants and Daboll. I'll be rooting against my action here. I just don't believe in the Vikings at all.
So I placed a bet on the New York Giants in October to come out of the NFC, $150 at about 20-1. I don't think they're going to come out of the NFC. I think they're going to come out of this game. So this obviously is a rematch of a game that happened not all that long ago. As many of you will remember, on Christmas Eve, it was a 61-yard field goal that gave Minnesota the 27-24 win over the New York Giants. And I'm sure Brian Daboll and company are thinking, look, Justin Jefferson caught 12 balls against us. TJ Hawkinson caught 13 balls against us. Like, that's not going to happen twice. I do believe the Giants' defense is even better than it was just a few short weeks ago, certainly in terms of their confidence and just the way they're flying around the ball. I think the Giants are going to win. I'm going to take the 3 points. I think they win this game outright at Minnesota, and Daniel Jones, current form, pretty good. First playoff start for him, I believe, but current form, quite good.
And Daboll just really knows what he's fucking doing, and some of these other coaches don't. Like giving his team the bye last week, okay? Shutting it down last week, and then they actually compete in the game. And then you got the Cowboys and the Chargers with those 2 head coaches, McCarthy and Staley. They're going to trot everybody out, and we're going to play, and we're going to get beat by an inferior team and not have the mojo moving forward. Daboll just juices up the building in the right way and gives them that bye. And for a guy like Daniel Jones, even if he doesn't get hit, he falls down a lot of the time on these stumbling, scrambles. So for me, that bye week that they really gave themselves, I think worked out beautifully. I'm with you.
I just hope Daboll doesn't lose weight.
I agree. That's
because
funny.
I think it's part of the appeal. Lane Kiffin loses all this weight. I mean, I was doing Jon Anik's charity challenge, an MMA event several years ago at a bar in South Florida. And who's there, knocking pints back like they're shots of water? Lane Kiffin. He doesn't eat anymore, doesn't drink anymore. And I think Brian Daboll, I hope he doesn't, lean into that treadmill too heavily during the offseason. I think part of the appeal is that he hasn't seen his penis in 25 years.
You like that, Joey. All right, next game on the board. Ravens at Bengals -6.5. So, and this line I'm sure you see in different places. Obviously, you see, the thing to me, it's like even if Lamar plays, I don't see it. What is it? So if they say Lamar is playing, does this really get down to like 4? I just don't see it. I don't think he's going to be himself. I think the Bengals line so Zach sees it at 7. But I want to talk. I think there's a little pressure on the Bengals here, right? It is a division. I don't necessarily love seeing John Harbaugh on the other side of the field, regardless of who's playing quarterback. And as high as I am on the Bengals, and I hate to do it, but I got to do it. Like, I think they get hosed. Like, I was very bullish on them going into that game against Buffalo, and you can be sure they looked like they were ready to play up 7-3, crossing over midfield with a big play. They win that game. It's a whole different situation than Buffalo coming back to Cincinnati, a Buffalo team to me that's a little bit shaky. So now you got the Ravens, you beat the Ravens, and then you're going to Orchard Park. Like, with respect, that's so fucked up for the Bengals, in my opinion. And no disrespect to, I'm not, the game shouldn't have been, whatever. Logistic, I'm not going to get into that. But from the Bengals standpoint, but I hope it's a little bit of me against the world. But no matter how much I like that Bengals team and liked how they looked against Buffalo, if they make it to Orchard Park, I don't like them there. Do you know what I mean? You may, and I'm not trying to jump a week ahead. So, and you can talk on that game, but in terms of Ravens Bengals here, I still like the Bengals here. I think they cover the number whether Lamar plays or not. Go ahead.
So as soon as we get off the air, I'm going to go take that 7, right? Because I do think Lamar Jackson will play. And I do think even if he's 80%, he is the consummate playmaker.
If he's 80%, I don't think he is the consummate playmaker if he's 80%.
You have seen some frustration from Lamar Jackson this year, and perhaps it's boiling over from the contract situation a little bit. I mean, I do believe that he's going to get his money. I hope they don't franchise him, but they probably will.
Bob Kraft should give him his money.
I've seen him get frustrated with teammates at times, and I think he's going to play, and therefore through the key number or at the key number to 7, I will take it right now. I do believe if Lamar plays, it probably closes 5.5 or 6. But, yeah, I mean, I appreciate and share a lot of your bullishness on Cincinnati. And, I do think that they were going to beat the Buffalo Bills, especially when you see what New England was able to do offensively against Buffalo in Week 18. So, for me, it's going to be Ravens +7 if that number still exists 10 minutes from now. But not a game that I'm all that juiced up to play, if I'm being honest, really, especially because of Lamar Jackson's situation.
God, if the Bengals and the Bills play again, just so many things that are fascinating. It's like it was some good tape for the Bills in terms of the Bengals just dominating on offense for even in that short, first quarter. Anyway, final game of the weekend, the Monday Nighter, Cowboys at Buccaneers +3, the only home team that's an underdog with the greatest quarterback in the history of the National Football League, Tom Brady at the helm. Tom Terrific back in the fucking tournament. Like, you're going to go ahead and take Dallas. So Jason Garrett made a comment on NBC Sports Sunday night, I believe, talking about Dallas on grass. I believe 1-4 or 1-5 on natural grass. They like that field turf at home. I think that could be a factor. I don't really know, man. This is another one that I'm glad I don't have to pick it. Some of these games wouldn't necessarily be in my 5. I think Dallas certainly has the better overall skill players, but I don't know. I just don't know what to think about the Buccaneers. They can't really run the ball. Their defense can be good. I'd probably take the 3 here. I'll be rooting for my boy, Tom Terrific. I'm at the point now where I want Brady to continue playing. I'm over it now. I can get, if it goes to Raiders next year, whatever it is. So for me, if the Cowboys I think the Cowboys need to win this game, and I think they would really be a player if they move forward, where I'm not so sure about Tampa Bay. Talk to me, man. Bucks,
what do
Cowboys.
we make of Dallas's effort against the Washington Commanders in a game that mattered to them in Week 18? I don't want to make too much of that necessarily. We know what Stephen A. Smith thinks about that particular effort, right? And that franchise. But gosh, they're still the better team. I'm just not looking for them to have to win by 4 for me to cash my ticket. I mean, it's not as though Tampa Bay overnight got all of their players back, right? It's not as though their offensive line is now clicking on all cylinders because
Tristan Wirfs might be playing, though. Tristan Wirfs
That's fine, but they're fairly ravaged, and certainly a lot of the public money seems to be on Tampa Bay. I've seen the line 3. I've seen it 2.5. Yeah, I would play Tampa Bay at home +3. But I like the Dallas Cowboys on the money line. I think they're going to win the game. I think they're going to right the ship and, get everybody sort of untracked after what happened last week. I think too much is being made of that. I think Tampa Bay is much more the outfit that we saw all season long. That's 8-9, and I like Dallas to win, but I'm not laying 3. If it got to 2.5, maybe. But again, all season long, you make me pick 5 games against the spread. Now I have a little freedom to not play the game, so not in any rush to play it.
In Tom Brady's final season with the Patriots, it was clear in actions and words that he was done after that season. And you sort of get the same sense in Tampa a little bit, you know?
doubt.
And so I'm curious if that creeps in a little bit here. I'm just not going to bet against my boy. You can be sure. The only thing I believe we have left to do is pick the winners of the AFC and the NFC and our Super Bowl champs based on the postseason schedule that lies. So if you'd be so kind, start us out. Who is your AFC champion?
So we haven't talked about the Chiefs and the Eagles, who both have those first-round buys, obvious reasons, right? But out of the AFC, I'm still going to go with the Buffalo Bills. I'm still going to go with the team that I picked at the beginning of the season. And even though it seems like a lot of these Josh Allen to Stephon Diggs connections are high degree of difficulty, maybe 15% chance you get a completion, they keep doing it time and time again. Devin Singletary's running hard. Dawson Knox is coming out of his shell, really starting to round out that offense. I don't know how it's going to go for them defensively, but I do believe that they're going to be favored to come out of the AFC. And even though I think it's sort of a 3-horse race, Jacksonville might creep. But I think largely we're looking at Cincinnati, Kansas City, Buffalo, and Jacksonville. For me, I'm going to somewhat reluctantly stay with the Buffalo Bills as my AFC championship representative in Super Bowl 50, whatever it is.
So I didn't really have to think too hard about this. And let's say, I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves, but let's say Cincinnati did win that game and that game gets played. Cincinnati looked like they were up 7-3 at the time. So let's say they do win that game. And then Buffalo does come back there after they both win this weekend. Yes, it's an advantage to be at home, but I'm a little bit of a law of averages guy. And it's like, okay, so you're the Bengals and you take care of the Bills at home. And then they come back a few weeks later. That scares me a little bit. So the fact that they didn't really get to feel each other out in that important game, and whether it's seeing formations, different things, I'm picking the Bills to win the AFC, much to your surprise. I would have picked the Bengals and the Chiefs to beat them if it was going through Cincinnati or Kansas City, which I don't think it is. I think the Bills are the 3rd best team in the AFC. But I think this major event with Damar Hamlin and getting stronger every day, I think it's real. And so you're telling me for the Bills to hoist Lombardi, and I don't want to go there, AFC first, we'll get there. But so you're telling me the Bills got to take care of the Dolphins at home, which is not going to be Tua. And then you got the Bengals coming in town, which is a home game. And then you're probably playing Chiefs at a neutral site. If that's the path, I'm taking the Bills. I think KC on a neutral field against Buffalo, to me, with the Damar Hamlin, everything that's happened with this, I think it actually is that little extra bit, maybe to push the Bills over the edge, where maybe I did look at them at a little bit of a deficit compared to some of these other teams. I'll be rooting hard for the Bengals with respect, because I think, 7, 8 in a row, whatever it is, they deserve. They put themselves in position after going 0-2 to be the 2 seed. Two years ago, that even gets you a bye. Anyway, we're talking about a coin flip this week. So Who Dey, let's go Cincinnati. We'll see what happens. But the Bills are my pick to come out of the AFC.
So right now, the Chiefs are favored to win the AFC, followed by the Bills and then the Cincinnati Bengals. In terms of the overall Super Bowl favorite, Kansas City, then Buffalo and San Francisco. So Kansas City plus 250, the Bills and Niners plus 350, the Eagles plus 400, and then the Bengals plus 650, and it goes up from there. My NFC representative, you heard it earlier, the San Francisco 49ers. The Jalen Hurts train was rolling, and then it had to stop. And then obviously they did what they needed to do in Week 18, but now they have another week off. And I'm not necessarily sure that is optimal, if I'm being candid. I think this team sort of needs to re-gel. So I still think the Eagles will be heard from. I still absolutely think that other teams in the NFC could be heard from. Maybe even Tampa Bay, 28-1. Philly right now, by the way, plus 125 to come out of the NFC. I think it's going to be San Francisco, man. In Kyle Shanahan, I trust. I think San Francisco's offense is going to carry them to Super Bowl 50, whatever it is.
I'm going with the number 1 seed in the Philadelphia Eagles to come out of the NFC. I just think they're going to figure it out. Lane Johnson is a big part of this, whether he plays or not. I think that's an enormous part of this. But you're probably getting the winner of Giants, Minnesota, if I'm not mistaken. And then you got to host the 49ers and Brock Purdy with your chance to go to the Super Bowl. So if that's what I'm thinking, or maybe Jimmy Garoppolo. But frankly, if I'm the 49ers, I don't care how healthy Jimmy G is. That's a keep the train rolling. But is Mac Jones so much better than Brock Purdy, right? If you throw Mac Jones to the 49ers, is he right? I mean, how much does Brock Purdy matter? In my prediction for the 49ers to make the postseason before the season started, I had my notes I don't care who's playing quarterback. And that still may be the case. Super Bowl 57. Thank you.
Yeah, I just looked it up, but Zach to the rescue. Yeah, we were actually at the last Super Bowl, the last Patriots playoff win, by the way. You and I were in the building, Super Bowl 53 or whatever it was.
But anyway, I think the Philadelphia Eagles just find a way to do it with that bye, and I'm hopeful that they do. So I have Bills facing the Eagles, my Super Bowl winner, and I'm going to go first here. And I can't. So I bet this today, and this will surprise. I bet the Bills to win the Super Bowl plus 350. I like the number right now. I don't love betting on some of these. But, if I think that you're going to get maybe a better line in an individual game, why'd you play them plus 350 if maybe that? But I don't think the Bills, I think you're going to be a pick 'em in any of these games or favored the rest of the way. I like them to win the Super Bowl. I believe, I'm not talking religion like Josh Allen to say, but how about that kickoff return touchdown? I mean, come on. And then another kickoff return touchdown. Now, I know the Patriots have had their ups and downs, but I think the Bills are going to find a way. And for me, the Bills, who have been so snake bitten and for such a long time, to me, this little off course thing feels like it's going to be what takes them on course to hoist it. And I don't hate it. I'm not going to hate seeing it.
No, I think you put that well. And when the Patriots were at their dynastic best and they were winning Super Bowl after Super Bowl, they were making plays like Stephon Diggs repeatedly makes, whether it was David Givens or somebody else catching the ball that he shouldn't have, right? It just seems like things are aligning for Buffalo. But that being said, I'm taking the San Francisco 49ers to hoist the Lombardi Trophy at Super Bowl 57. I just think they're going to be too much for Buffalo, and I do think eventually there could be an emotional spillover for the Buffalo Bills. I think you saw a little bit of it in the Patriots game, but I do think it's a lot for that team emotionally and mentally still to deal with, even though it looks like DeMar is going to be okay, if not resume his career at some point in time. But, man, the 49ers, dude, so many different ways to beat you on both sides of the football. Special teams outstanding as well with Robbie Gould. You got the better kicker. Head coach to me is probably a wash. Slight special teams advantage for me goes to San Francisco. Brandon Ayuk, Kyle Juszczyk, Deebo Samuel, George Kittle, Christian McCaffrey.
I hear you, dude.
The O-line. I think San Francisco and Buffalo are going to meet in the Super Bowl. And I win $7,000 if Buffalo wins the Super Bowl. I think I'm ripping up all those tickets. I think Kyle Shanahan gets his first.
I like it. So that'll be a wrap on Anik Squared Season 1. I'm just going to start thanking everyone at the Hammer.bet, specifically Rob Pizzola, Alex Moretto, most importantly, our guy, executive producer Zach Phillips. Been great to get to know you, my man. And just to let you know, the Forward Progress YouTube channel, where all this content is being filtered through, that is your NFL betting hub. They got live shows all day long. Forward Progress YouTube channel. We will be back. Talk to me, Jon Anik. Get us out of here.
Yeah, of course, thanks to Rob Pizzola and Alex and everybody else. Zach Phillips, appreciate you at the helm all season long. And we might be back for a Super Bowl preview, but thanks to everybody, obviously, who checked us out on Forward Progress, on the Hammer Betting Network, and for those of you who came on late in the season when we started simulcasting on the Anik and Florian Podcast YouTube channel. Anik Squared will be back for Season 2. That's a guarantee. I don't know if the Hammer Betting Network's going to pick it up, but hopefully it'll be here. If not, though, Anik Squared will be back in your life coming up fall of 2023, so stay tuned for that. But obviously this is a labor of love. I've enjoyed it. Congratulations to you I'll be making good on the bet. Maybe even I'll do it on your podcast with Bilal Muhammad. I'll come on Remember the Show and pay off the bet with my 5 shots of tequila. But congratulations on a big win and a lot of future success as well.
For the great Jon Anik, my name is Jason Anik. We appreciate you all joining us on Anik Squared. We will see you next season. All the love. Later.